Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Boobies and Noobies. You can follow us at Boobies Podcast on both Instagram and Twitter. And if you'd like to support the podcast and get a little extra bonus Boobies content every month, you can support us on Patreon at Boobies Podcast.
Romance readers to think outside the dick in a box and brave the unbridled world of erotica. I'm your host, Kelly Reynolds, and today I'm joined by actress and star of the upcoming short film, What is Love? Miss Katie Lynn Stoddard. Welcome, Katie Lynn.
Oh, hello. Thank you.
Now, do I call you Katie Lynn or do I call you Katie? Because when I say Katie Lynn, I feel like I gotta get my Southern Belle on.
Oh, wow. There you go. I'm from Virginia, so a little bit northern of the Belle accent.
Is that too north for the Belle?
I would be lying if I were to don that. I haven't earned that one. But yeah, no, it's Katie Lynn. It's it's Catherine. It's all formal and stuff, but but that's
a very good romance name, Catherine.
It is for a novel. Great for
Catherine Stoddard.
It takes too long if I'm like crossing the street and somebody wants to tell me that a car's coming. You know, too many syllables.
Look out.
Yeah, Katie, easier. Just like, hey,
Catherine Lynn Stoddard.
Sometimes I just go by you, car, and it just
That's
right,
good.
Right to the point.
That's good. I like that. Right to the point. Avoid the hits.
Mm-hmm.
These are the important things.
Right. I do want to clarify, I do not almost get hit by a car that often. Just every now and then.
And especially when you're in the vicinity of people that know you.
Right.
Too. Of you just happen to be crossing the street and, there's your friend who says, look out, Katie.
Right. Instead of like, Catherine Lynn Stoddard, I'm gone.
Yeah. Good. Okay, so keep your friends close and take the bus.
Yep.
Is what I'm hearing.
Sounds good.
Okay, there we go. Problem solved.
Yep.
Well, tell me, please, about what is love.
I
mean, tell me what is love. Like, that's fine if you want to explain that, too. But about the film specifically, this is a podcast about love and romance. We are always happy to promote love and movies that do the same. Yeah. So tell us more.
It is very fitting, very appropriate. So Kenneth Griggs.
Yes, who we've had on the show before. He was actually a guest back during our 12 Days of Boobs Miss holiday special.
I didn't know that.
Yes, you'll have to go back and listen. I think he's actually day one.
Oh, joyous day. Joyous day one. I will have to listen. So he was listening to a podcast, oddly enough, and he heard the story of this woman who, her whole life was dealing with dating and it just wasn't working and she didn't know why and all of these excuses for breaking up with people and then, or it's just not working out.
Was she also 28 and living in Los Angeles? Because
could have been.
That sounds so on point.
Possibly different state, but
okay.
But we're all human. We're all the same. So yeah, so she ended up going out one night and hooked up with a lady and was like, yeah, okay, well, there it is. Like, all right, I've been looking in the wrong aisle. Yeah. And so to him, I just like really spoke to him, her story. And nowadays when all kinds of stories are, out to just personal storytelling is always a good thing.
Yeah.
And it's always interesting and educational for people to hear individual tales and take off of them what lessons they want. Instead of a film saying, this is the way the LGBTQIA community runs on average.
Right.
To listen to one particular tale.
Yeah.
You relate to it a little bit more. And so he is a writer and wanted to write one. And so I think he reached out to her. And I don't know where that went, but I do know that he, just started writing, wanted to tell a story that was like that he connected to so much. And so then he started to do that. And then he brought me on board. And we've just like talked about, questioning it because we're both young adults in Los Angeles and,
right.
Romance is everywhere and it's in movies, it's in books.
Everywhere and nowhere all at once.
Yeah, and it makes it look like there's a formula to it and that's dumb because there's no timing. Like, You can't plan that.
No.
You can't plan anything.
No, and it's one of those things too where people I know a lot of people who will, date somebody and think, oh my gosh, this is the person, but the timing's wrong.
Right.
The timing's off. Like, it's just not our time. Like, as far as I see it, if you want to make it work, you'll make it work.
Right.
Sort of thing. Like, the timing is never going to be perfect.
Right.
Like, it's never going to happen. The stars are not going to align. I know this is probably weird coming from somebody that hosts a podcast about romance novels and everything that I love about them, but despite the romance novels and the romantic comedies which I write, probably in a very similar style to Kenny, I don't want to say a cynic, but I'm a realist.
Yeah.
I'm a realist.
You have to be a little bit.
Yeah, I'm a realist and a romantic, which makes dating difficult.
I bet.
So especially, I don't think that's the only thing that makes dating difficult. I think we've kind of ruined the concept of dating.
Most definitely.
And I don't mean just millennials, because I know everybody blames everything on millennials.
Right.
But I think with technology comes a lot of benefits and
adjusting.
As with anything,
exactly.
Things change, but I mean, at the same time, technologies enable us to spread more awareness for certain things. I mean, it's allowed us to communicate better in certain ways.
And faster.
Yes.
Look, people had to adapt with the wheel, so
yeah.
We're always going to be growing and adapting. And
right. And then on the flip side, the more you watch romantic comedies, which I love, and the more I read romance novels, you can't help but think, God, there was an easier time.
Or a pattern that I'm missing.
Where they bumped into each other at a supermarket and...
Well, I think people look for that instead of just, like, letting it
happen. Just
fall in their
life
laps.
Go. Yeah,
right.
Exactly. We get very set on... I mean, it's the same as a writer when you're trying to write a romantic comedy or, some sort of romances. You have this specific idea of what that looks like. There's a formula, and we follow this formula as creators. And I mean, we read this formula in this book. Exactly. However, there's also more books and movies and TV shows nowadays that are coming out that are giving us more of kind of like 2019 romance. Yeah. Where it's less of, one specific look at they meet, they don't like each other, they fall in love, something bad happens, then they end up together. Right. There's still, it's still formulaic, but it's formulaic in a way where you root for love to win. Like, that's kind of like the one constant is you kind of hope that love wins. Yeah. But
it's a rare case that it wins the way you want it to.
Exactly. Yeah, just because it doesn't need to end with a bow on top. Like, we've read some books for this podcast where it ends with, they get married and then you flash forward and they've had kids and everything. I'm like, that's great. But I also don't need that. Like, personally for me, like, I don't need that. But maybe somebody does want.
Right. How about an extra, like a bedroom chapter at the end? That'd be nice.
Yeah.
Like, end on a...
At the end of your book, you're like...
They're 60 and they're still going at it. Got it.
That is the ending I've been missing.
That's the one that needs to happen.
And I didn't even know I was missing it until you brought it up.
I mean, I'm always, I wonder... about, like, I'm not gonna lie, I've looked at old couples before and thought, like, do you still?
Yeah. Is it still happening? I hope it is.
Did you adjust?
Yeah. And if you did, what do you do now instead?
Right.
So, like, every time you get frisky, you play some mini golf?
Right. Is there warm milk nearby somewhere? Just
creamy.
Yeah.
Cool. You reminded me of when you were talking about the story that Kenny heard about in a podcast. And there's actually a really good romance that came out this past year called When Katie Met Cassidy by Camille Perry. And I met Camille Perry when I was at Los Angeles, the LA Times Festival of Books this year. And she signed my copy, and it's delicious. But it was very much one of those stories where it's two women. It's two women who fall in love, but one of them, hasn't really been with women before, hasn't really thought about being with women before, and then she just meets this person that something clicks, and they hit it off, and it's great. Like, it reminded me of that when you were talking about that story. Is it's just another example of love that you might not otherwise think about.
Well, and I think he also wanted to cater to, and wants to cater to people that, like, are from, like, his hometown where he grew up, or, like, places, like, that it's just not as conceivable as, like, it's just harder to, and the whole love is love concept is that somebody can be confused about their sexuality with gender just as much as somebody can be confused about their sexuality with individuals in general. Like,
sure,
you know, you can date a million guys and then it's just not working, just as Jessie does in the film. Well, with her journey, it's not a very specific, like, this or that or whatever. Yeah. It's just, in general, she's just questioning. It just talks about all different kinds of topics.
You mean there isn't one specific moment where she says to herself, oh my gosh, I might be a lesbian?
I mean, we've all had those. Let's be real.
What?
There could be. You watch it and you find out.
Okay.
But it's a thing where, you know, you could question your sexuality, you could question whatever, and then, oh no, like, you were just in the wrong section of human, like, being.
Yeah.
And so you could be dating, like, the physically attractive by societal standards of American 20-year-olds, and that's just not doing anything for you. And then you meet somebody that is not at all what you physically would have put together, but they're perfect. And, you know, and it's just like, and, like, that comes out of nowhere. So it's the same, and that's what he wants to explore, is, like, what is love? Is it a just purely sexuality thing? Is it, like, is it something wrong with me? Because we all question ourselves and, like, our decision making. Mm-hmm. So it's a less of like a who story and more of a what story. Yeah. Like, what am I doing here? Yeah.
No, I think that's great, and I think it's true. It's, you know, we talked about it. It's the stuff that you're seeing in movies and shows that, you know, gives you this idea of what it is. It's what you see growing up, you know, your parents, your friends. Like, I mean, it's everybody's view of love is so, I don't want to say skewed, but it's like, is there one way to define it that, you know, works for everyone? I don't know how there could be, just because there's no one gender, there's no one sexuality, there's no one anything. I don't think there's two either. Like, the possibilities are just...
Yeah, no,
crazy.
Exactly. Well, I think also, like, articles that tell you where to look for love and, like, the signs of a bad relationship and, like, all, and that's great. Mm-hmm. Or, like, horoscopes in general. You look at, like, I did that for years.
Oh, always. Yeah,
like,
and it's so hot right now. Like, astrology is, like, super hot.
Oh, yeah. But the funny thing is you can look all you want on, like, who does mine match with? Oh, Scorpio with a Aries or whatever. Yeah. And you might not even know the person you like is your own freaking sign the whole time. Like, you don't even think about it, and then you're like, why did I do all that research?
Right. Or it's the opposite, where you get to know somebody and you really like them, and then you're like, okay, and then it's almost like you're finding an excuse for, like, reasons that you can't like them,
right?
Because heaven forbid you risk yourself getting hurt. Like, you know, that's really what it is, right? We have to find reasons, like, oh, I can't date somebody who smokes, or I can't date somebody who's done this, or who has children, because
it's protection,
because of this, it's gonna hurt me, gonna hurt me somehow. And I mean, I get it. Like, I personally think everyone should be selfish in a way of, like, you have to look out for you like, number one. But you know, but I am also single, so
no, I agree. I think because I've never really dated. I've never been a big dater. Yeah. But I do think that, you know, in college it was like, okay, well, everybody else is dating, so I should probably date. I'm just gonna hang out with people and see if I like them. I don't know. But then it didn't take until, like, moving to Los Angeles and relocating to be completely alone, because I came here by myself, that it forced me to really get to know myself on a completely new level. Yes. And then I loved me more than everybody else. So it was like,
oh, girl,
I don't want, you know, like, if I like you enough to get out of my PJs and go hang out with you at nighttime when I could be sleeping, then I'm obviously impressed.
That's you really like someone.
Yeah, because it's me time, you know?
That is a sacrifice to make, for sure. Like, the minute the pajamas come on, I'm like, you want to come over here? Fine. Am I leaving? ooh, I don't know. You
Yeah.
better give me a reason to, like, really come over.
Yeah, I made dinner for one. I'm watching what I want to watch. If you want to sit, fine. But, like...
I already took my bra off.
Yeah, it's been off all day.
Yeah, I haven't shaved my legs.
Yeah.
Like, I've got a face mask on.
Oh my gosh,
You know,
yes.
I mean, God, such a perfect you. What is your sign, by the way? I'm curious.
I am a Scorpio.
Okay, I'm an Aries. Are we compatible?
I don't know. I think probably.
Okay.
I think I'm Aquarius or Capricorn. I don't know. I'm not sure. I forget. I did all this research, then forgot about it because it wasn't working.
I know. Yeah, exactly. I mean, if it works for people, good for you.
Right.
I don't know if it's the astrology working or if it's just that you found someone great.
I just forget. I forget all the details.
Yeah, and that's really what it should be. Is if you do find the right person, persons, whoever it might be.
Right.
You know that it's. You know, it works. It works.
Yeah, and if you don't and you're happy, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That is so great
I know.
because I love being that way.
Oh my God,
so.
me too. My roommate just started doing the online dating thing again, and she goes out like 2 or 3 nights a week with people, and I'm just with different people, and I'm just like, oh my God,
I'd be too.
how do you have
tired.
this time and energy to do this? Like, I just think about all the stuff that I do in my day, and I'm like, you know what? It wouldn't be fair for me to date someone right now because I wouldn't be able to give them the time.
Right, like I can
deserve.
book you next month. Right. Yes. Yes.
Exactly. So, I mean, I actually understand the concept of the long distance relationship.
Oh, yeah.
I really do, because I'm like, you know what? If I only saw you a little while, but we talked on the phone or something, I think that would work great for me. Mm-hmm. I really do. This is something I've realized about myself by being alone and spending time with me.
It's great. It honestly, and now's the time. Like, women, we're allowed to wear pants now, so we can take our sweet time.
It's a new thing.
Yeah.
Pants.
Yeah. Which bread do I want in the bread aisle? I'm gonna take my time. Maybe it's artisan today.
Bread.
Maybe it's Wonder Bread. We don't know. What am I feeling? Is it? Do I want sushi? I don't. Which roll? You know, I'm gonna take my time. All of them, and then you get all of them.
You have to choose one or the other,
and you don't. But you can take your time deciding. You know, and like I feel like it's that way too. It's like you can also go to the store and not get anything and be like, well, I just didn't want anything.
I just wanted to browse.
Yes.
You know?
Window shopping.
I wanted to browse and try the free samples.
Yeah, I mean Costco.
So good. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, you know, we'll keep up with What Is Love, the film, and also be questioning what is love after listening to this very existential episode of Movies and Noobies.
Yes.
Can you tell everybody how they can keep up with the updates for the film?
Totally. So we do have an Indiegogo campaign that it's already up and it's running, and you can find that link. The way I find the link is via our Instagram page, which is at What Is Love Movie.
Okay, perfect.
Yes, and so go and look at that. We also have vlogs and stuff, which
are so fun.
They are fun to make.
Fun.
They're fun to make. So it's just Jessie and she like updating a vlog. She keeps a dating vlog about everything that goes wrong because it just does for her, and so it's just a weekly thing. But yeah, so there's videos there. The whole video, we went down to Pride for Pride weekend and just like asked people their opinions on like dating and like love itself and like what.
Aww,
yeah. So, and I think there's a YouTube page that Kenny set up that you can like look at those in full. As opposed to just the little snippets that they allow.
I love it.
Yeah. So
I
yeah,
like it. It's a way to like kind of fall in love with the concept of the movie and fall in love with Jessie. Before the movie even comes out.
Because it's a short, and so you only have so much time, and we want to really elongate that character because I think that he wrote her very relatable.
Yes.
And so I only hope to add on to the humanism of the relatability that other people can look at and go, oh, okay.
I think it could be like a proof of concept for like a feature too.
Oh yeah.
I'm already like thinking, oh, this could be. I mean, this doesn't have to be a short. This could be like a whole thing.
Right.
I can see it. So okay, perfect. So if people want to check out the Indiegogo, give a little love for What Is Love, and they can do that. And we'll make sure to leave links for the Instagram page as well as Indiegogo on our social media as well, so everybody can check it out and keep up with the updates and hopefully see the film this fall, winter?
We are filming it hopefully in August. So,
okay, great.
Yeah,
so,
however long post takes, which we all know, we never know.
Yeah, a month, it could be 11 months.
Exactly, it could be 11 years. You just don't.
It's the way of filmmaking.
Yes, it is. But I'll also post updates at on my Instagram as well, which is at DexterDoggy 3.0. It's confusing, but
love it.
Yep. That I will post them there too.
Perfect. Yeah. Awesome. Okay.
Book time.
Well, without further delay, it's time to get down to business.
With some smooth moves.
Yes. Okay, so let's dive right on in. So the book we are going to be discussing today is called Smooth Moves by Marie Harte, and this is the second book in the Veteran Movers series. Veterans as in veterans of the armed services.
Yes.
We have several different
Marine
services represented in the story. And this book was published in May of this year, 2019, and it's available on Amazon for $5.68 Kindle edition. Although you bought the paperback.
I like a physical copy.
Yeah, no, that's good. I actually saw it in a store recently, and I was like, oh, maybe I should pick it up. And then I was like, oh, but, Kindle, I can make notes with, like, the little highlighter thing. So, that's what I did. But $5.68, what an interesting choice in pricing for Kindle. Whatever, I'll go with it. The third book in the series is coming out in August.
They gave a sneak peek, I think. I didn't read it because I didn't want to tease myself too much.
Yes, perfect. Well, and the first book is out, obviously. Second book is the one we read. I did not read the first book before coming into this one. I have my guess about what the first book's about. I think it's about Reed and his girlfriend.
Oh, gross! I didn't even.
No.
I think that I didn't even think about it. I didn't know there was a first.
It's just knowing like the romance genre and the fact that we come into this story and there's already two people who have coupled up. My first instinct is that that's who the first book is about. It's about Reed and what's her face? Vanessa? What's her name?
Naomi. Vanessa's
Naomi.
She's the boss of the other guy.
Yes, that's right. She's not important. So,
maybe it was about her.
Yeah.
The whole time.
Yeah, so if you do decide that you want to check out the whole series, the first and second book are available, and the third book is coming out soon. So there is still time. Okay, so before reading this book, had you ever read a romance novel before?
Does Twilight count? Because I read that puppy like 3 times.
If I had a nickel for every time someone asked me, does Twilight, either insert Twilight, Nicholas Sparks, or 50 Shades of Grey?
Oh, it didn't touch the latter two. Just the first series. Although, Host was better, in my opinion.
Host was better.
It was so underrated.
Yeah, it was. But I totally do understand, like, we actually talked about this on a recent episode, and Twilight was one of the first book, I think it was the first book series that I do remember, like, committing to and, like, reading the whole thing. So, I mean, I gotta give props where they're due. Something like Twilight, which did inspire 50 Shades of Grey.
Exactly.
So, I mean, you have stuff like that it does have these tropes and everything. So, I would not call it a romance novel. However, it's definitely got romance in it.
Yes.
It's a young adult.
For a high schooler, it is.
Yeah.
Ooh, zesty.
Right? It was. And that's when I was reading it in high school and I was like, oh my God. I mean, I feel like every high schooler kept reading it because they're like, we need to see them fuck.
Yes.
And then when it got to that point, it was so lame. And we were also disappointed. Maybe that's why I started reading romance, like a couple years later, was I was just so distraught from what was taken away from me in Twilight.
Well, and see, like, as coming from a Buffy girl, I imagined it so much different than, like, oh, he's solid. Ew. Like, that didn't sound like any fun. It was like, that's really depressing.
That he's solid?
He was so... Remember they described, like, the first time, she was like, he's really, like, rock solid. Like, there's no movement.
Wait, are we talking about Twilight?
Yeah!
Okay.
There was, like, he's like a corpse, so he's, like, not... And you're like, ooh, doesn't
rock
sound...
hard.
No. But, like, Angel and Buffy, I'm like, that's gotta be good.
Oh, Angel and Buffy.
Like, that's gotta be. They just moved together. And then, it was just great.
I was a Spike girl, though.
Oh my God, me too.
Team Spike. As beautiful as David Boreanaz is, though, as Angel. Like, And I did go on to watch him on Bones, but...
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, of course. I mean, he's definitely pretty to look at, but, like, I'm sorry.
I like a bad boy.
I like a bad boy with a bike and apparently bleached blonde hair. I didn't...
Yeah, I know. That was, like, the one thing. Well, but it was that sarcastic wit.
Yeah, it was that, like, punch me in the face, honey. Like, I deserve it.
It's
okay.
so awful, though. And I'm like, God, what does that say about our taste in men? Like, oh, God.
Oh, man. I did meet him at a Comic-Con once.
What?
I cried before. I saw him come out of, like, the curtains for his panel or whatever. It wasn't even a panel.
Crying.
And I was a little ways away, and I, like, fell on the floor and started crying. I was like, I can't see him right now. And, like, had to leave, came back. He, like touched me and on the shoulder. Like, he doesn't know this at all, but he was so warm, and it was like, oh my God.
Oh.
Yeah. My life
I'm
has
gonna
been
cry
made.
just thinking about that.
I know.
Oh, that sounds fabulous.
Yeah. I recommend it.
Well, there are no vampires or undead in this story.
That's okay.
So
Still
I'm
good.
sorry that I disappointed you in that regard.
No, believe me, if I read another thing about vampires, it'd start becoming a problem.
Had you ever thought about, I mean, especially after reading Twilight and the Host, like, had you thought about reading more romance?
I don't read.
You don't read, like, in general?
I'm just bad at it. Like, every book I own has a dog ear in the middle somewhere.
Because you still haven't finished it.
Because I've been like, well, yeah, I'll get back to that, and then something else comes up.
Did you ever watch the movie When Harry Met Sally?
No.
Okay. In the movie, Harry has this habit where when he gets a book, he immediately flips to the end because he's like, yeah, I want to see what happens just in case, like, I die tomorrow. I need to know how the book ends.
Oh, he's like a dessert first kind of guy.
Yes, exactly. So that's funny. That reminded me of that. But I was like, yeah, I would probably more go your route, where it's like I would start a book, and then I definitely have a few that I've started that I'm like, I'm not quite in the mood for this now. I'm going to put it away, and 3 months later, I'm still not in the mood.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, and I would say, like, this is something about the book. It doesn't. It's every book. It's every book I own.
Okay.
So,
well, then I appreciate the fact that you made a commitment.
It's been a while, so my brain was like, words, you know?
Yes. Good. Did you find it difficult to read?
No.
Like, okay, it was like a smooth read, like, going through.
Very easily palatable. I could totally follow the whole thing. Sometimes they throw in words like amalgam or something, and I'm like, oh, what the fuck does that mean again? And I have to Google it, but it's cool. It's cool. Yeah, Dostoevsky's hard, but this was nice.
This is like the good book to jump into after not reading.
Right.
Great.
Right.
Before we get to our synopsis, let's take a break for a quick Podcoin promo. Podcoin is the app that pays you to listen to this podcast and all your other favorites. Just get the Podcoin app on iPhone or Android. It's free, super easy to use, and you can use the Podcoins you earn to claim gift cards or donate to charity. Check out the Podcoin app and use the invite code BoobsNoobs to earn 300 Podcoins just for signing up. And now, back to the boobylicious content.
Awesome. Okay, so just so everybody knows a little bit about the book before we discuss it in depth and give away all our spoilers, let me tell you the summary from Amazon.com for Smooth Moves by Marie Harte. Here we go. He may be all brawn, but when it really counts, his heart is all gold. Former Marine Cash Griffith is a brawny beacon for trouble, always finishing a fight that someone else starts. Working at his family's moving company, he does his best to keep a low profile, but he can't help but tangle with the newest employee, Jordan Fleming. When Jordan joins Vets on the Go, she has her hands full with her new job and her rebellious teenage brother, not to mention going toe-to-toe with the obnoxious, arrogant, incredibly hot Marine at work. Soon their battles turn to camaraderie, and one kiss leads to a connection neither of them expected. But when dark secrets come to light, will their bond break or strengthen into a happily ever after they desperately desire? Spoiler alert, it's a happily ever after that they desperately desire.
It strengthens. It all strengthens, let's be real.
Okay, I have to say from the get-go that, I actually got a request recently to read more historical romance.
Oh, nice.
So I'm going to make an effort to do so, and it's not that I don't like it. It's just that typically when I have guests on the show, I like to offer them something more contemporary that might be a little bit easier to read and digest. So that being said, this one was completely new to me in that I want to say I've read a couple Marie Hartes before, so I was a little bit familiar with the author. But I don't usually read a military romance.
Yeah.
And I do have like one or two series that I love where it's like a Navy SEAL romance. We reviewed one for this podcast. But this one was like a little different in that yes, most of the characters in the story are veterans, including the female protagonist, which I was like, oh my god,
woot woot.
How fucking hot is that?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I have read a story yet where I've had a female protagonist who is in the armed forces.
Right.
So I was like, that is awesome. But yeah, this one was a little different in that, you know, they're all veterans. They're not battling what I would say the typical issues I would expect.
Like horrible PTSD. And,
yes.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when I read the synopsis and I heard, you know, the phrase, when dark secrets come to light, I was like, oh no, there's going to be like something tragic from the war.
Right.
Something haunting them. And it's not that I don't understand that those are real issues plaguing, you know, veterans.
Right.
As well as all sorts of folks. But I was relieved in a way that that's not what this story was, and that's kind of what made it different for me. I was like, I love that these people, this is just something that's part of their background. It is a piece of them, but it's not defining who they are.
Right.
Like they all, you know, were in either the Marines or the Army, I think, are the only ones.
Yeah.
Was there another one? I just remember Marines and Army.
That's all they really, because those two were.
Yeah, they're always going back and forth about what's better, which I'm like, great, that's exactly what you would expect. You know, kind
it's
of thing.
cute banter, of
but,
course.
I loved, though, that it wasn't just, there was no, like, combat.
They didn't candy coat PTSD with like, oh, get out of it with a love affair, because that's not how that works.
Right, which I've read in a lot of stories is, you know, the romance heals them, and, you know, I'm like, okay, fine, you know, but that's why I found this one refreshing in that it was different in that way. Like, nobody was fighting a war, nobody was coming home from war, there wasn't PTSD from
It's just
war.
something that you did that you have in common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like they could have been like, you know, soccer players.
Or accountants.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Or accountants. Yeah, I mean, the only thing that really the veteran status, like, contributed to was the fact that they are part of this company called Vets on the Go, which, it's Vets on the Go!
Yeah.
Because there's an exclamation point.
Yes.
Where they're a moving company and they just all happen to be veterans.
Which makes sense as to why they're also good at moving things, because they're strong.
And really, that's it, is that they have muscles, they're brawny, and they can kick people's ass, which happens a few times.
Well, and it also goes in, like, with her brother, Rafi. Well, she's like,
yes.
you know, oh, you're troubled, and, like, I was troubled, and then I got kicked out of school, and then I went to the army. Right, and he's all like, no, the Marines are better, and so that gives a little bit of a layer to his plot.
Yeah,
because he's like, I really don't want to go into the military.
Yeah, threatening to send into, like, military academy and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, that was just the first thing that I wanted to mention, was I found this... I wouldn't even call it, like, necessarily, like, I'm trying to think a military romance. I wouldn't really call it that.
No.
Just because you're not, and there's lots of people who love military romance, so I just wanted to be clear that if that's what you're looking for, this isn't that. You're not going to have combat. You're not going to have secret missions. Like,
right. There's military powdered sugar on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's just kind of like the background. It's not really what's happening in the story.
Right.
So, that being said, overall impressions, what'd you think?
I was entertained, definitely, the whole way through.
Good.
Yeah. I like how we kind of brought up a little bit that the female character isn't the damsel all the time.
Oh my gosh, she's great.
Yeah, she can, like, have a guy in a headlock. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
All right. And not just sexually either, like, I mean, both. But also just fighting for herself.
Yeah, I liked Jordan a lot.
Yeah, she was cool.
Like, she was really cool. She had good personality. She, you know, there's a point where they touch on it that I almost wish they'd explored a little bit more, but I really loved the mention of it, was Jordan has this little inner monologue piece where she mentions that she always wants to be treated like a person. Like, she's like, I want people to treat me as a person, as an equal.
Yes.
You know, not like you're good in the military for a woman, or like you're a female officer. Like, no, like you're great at what you do. She's like, however, I still want to be feminine.
Right.
Like, I still want people to treat me like a woman.
I want to get my nails done and I want to wear a dress. Yeah, but like, exactly. I also want to be strong.
I loved that mention because I feel like that is so, there's so much truth behind that small statement about just being a woman and having, like, you know, if you want to do these things, oh, well, then you're a girly girl. Like, you're very feminine. You like things girly. Like, and it's, you know, you have to be one way or the other. It's the same with sexuality. You have to be, you know, are you the femme or the butch?
Right.
Like, you know, you have to be a specific kind of lesbian. You have to, you know, so it's, I really love that. I almost wish that had been explored, like, a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
But that wasn't the focus, and that's okay. And, you know, Cash, the male protagonist, is obviously so, you know, enamored by Jordan.
That's it. That's why I don't think that they needed to go into it. Is because he was so in love with the way that she was.
It so clear that he loves everything about her.
Oh,
he
everything.
Loves her personality. He loves that she can beat the shit out of someone.
Her ass is nice.
Sexy. Yeah. So I mean, that really is it. Is that, you know, he loves everything about her anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Which is cute because it kind of feminizes him a little bit as well. Somebody that's so butch and is so big and brawny and muscly or whatever is still suffering from, like, a relationship that did him wrong before.
Right.
And he's a little tentative about something that he has a hard-on for 24/7. Like, I mean, I don't get that from a personal experience, but, like, I could see how that would, you know, be an issue for the guy.
Yeah, trust issues for sure, and, like, you know, commitment issues and everything. Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, so Cash, I liked him. Here's my thing. Overall, I really enjoyed the first half of the story a lot. And I think we kind of talked about this a little bit before we started recording. Shame on me, but I think what it is that I'm so conditioned by what to expect in a romance novel that when things start to not go my way, then I kind of think, like, what's going on now?
Right.
Like, this isn't how this was supposed to go.
Right.
And so I think what it was in the first half, it felt so typical romance, which is exactly what I'm looking for. It was, you know, these two work together. It's a, you know, friends to lovers romance.
Yeah, we can't, but can we? We don't know. Is it a secret?
Exactly. And then they have, like, there's never really animosity between them. It's more of, like, the silly kind of, like, taunting.
Yeah, flirting. It's very casual.
Yeah.
I mean, even when they're like, we are dating, like, no one's mad.
No, and that was actually something I really did like about it, too, is, you know, they kind of go from friends to, like, okay, we're not really labeling it. Like, we're just kind of, we're still friends at work. We're still working together.
Right.
We just go home and bang afterwards.
Yeah, like really hard. Yeah.
Yeah, and it started to take a turn for me, I think, after they had kind of started hooking up on the regular, and it was, like, part of their lives. And it wasn't that the romance went in a different direction for me. It was that there became so many extra little side stories.
Yeah.
That they kind of distracted me from the romance.
Yeah.
And I think that was, like, the only thing that kind of turned me off about the book.
I could see that. I didn't mind that only because in my head it was like, all right, we did all the honeymoon stuff. We like each other a lot. And now, like, real world problems come into the picture. Do you still like them? Or was it just like, oh, you're cute and I like to bang you? And then it was like, no, they still like each other and they definitely still like to bang each other.
Yeah, oh no, absolutely, yeah. And that was the one great thing that Marie Harte did, was that all the issues that arose still kind of in some way tied back into their relationship. Like, the main one is Jordan's brother, Rafi.
Right.
That we, from the very beginning, and he had a much larger role than I expected.
Oh, I know, I'm glad though, he was so cute in my head.
Yeah, no, is that Jordan's brother, Rafi, has basically been sent to live with her while he goes through summer school. He's a, you know, 15, 16-year-old boy, and he, you know, has been getting bad grades. He's been acting out, and the parents basically at this point are just like, okay, you're going to go live with her, and you're either going to do better, or you're going to the military academy, like, by the end of this summer. Like, you're going to start school at this academy.
Right, instead of paying attention to it, like, you might have dyslexia. Like,
yeah,
that might be it. Like,
for real.
Like, really, guys?
Exactly, yeah. And there's that, oh, God, that was so frustrating. That family just irked me so much.
All of the families just stunk.
God.
Like, the parents, the one set that we talked about on Cash's behalf, they sucked. And then Jordan's also sucked. And it was like, okay.
It was, I guess, okay, I'll get to that in a second. But, so Rafi, his whole storyline is, they're trying to kind of clean up his act. And when Cash comes into the picture and he's dating Jordan romantically, then he kind of steps in a little bit to be like, let me talk to him like man to man kind of thing. And that seems to be working and everything. And it's, him influencing him in a good way and saying like, I was a mess up too. Like,
but equals, like her, like he treats Rafi like an equal, even when he's like, Raphael, call me Raphael. And he's like, okay, cool. And he like listens. And
he doesn't, what's the term? He doesn't like pussyfoot around it kind of thing. He's sort of like, here's how it is. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat this for you sort of thing.
But that's how he is with Jordan too. So it's like, oh, that's genuinely how you are. You're not just like trying to put on a mask for something.
And then Rafi's story just keeps going into it, becomes like he gets mixed up with the wrong kids. He then is kind of like sort of supposed to be selling drugs, but doesn't.
Yeah, doesn't get that far.
Yeah, because again, Cash steps in to like save the day sort of thing, and it was interesting. And I did like that. I like that there were so many characters and that they had roles. Yeah. Like, Rafi's story for sure had a place because Cash would get in trouble with Jordan a little bit because he would step in and not tell her these things. And at the same time, it would also earn him points with her a little bit because she saw that he wanted to contribute to,
which was another good way of equaling the playing field, is kind of like, all right, cool, but you have to understand if we're going to be in a relationship and really take this seriously, we have to be in this together, equals. Yeah, which that was really refreshing to read, not the like, oh, you took care of everything, and my brother, and all this stuff.
And that was cool that was at the place near the end where generally you would have this moment where it's like oh no, they're going to break up, like something's not going to work out kind of moment. Right. I actually really liked that because all it was really was that Jordan found out that Cash had been kind of, overstepping, and she wasn't upset that he had, helped her brother, but the fact that they hadn't talked about it, like partners should. But I love the way she addresses him because she says, I'm not going to leave you. I love you, you idiot. Yeah. Like, I just can't talk to you right now. Like, I need to take a break. And I loved that. I was like, this is perfect. This is what it should be. In anytime you read a romance or you watch a movie where you're yelling at the TV or yelling at your book saying, why don't you just talk about it?
Right, exactly.
And that's exactly what that moment was they talked about it and she said, now I need you to walk away and we'll talk again tomorrow.
And it's strength that like is with somebody reading this who's going through like relationship issues, like you can be inspired by that. Like she looks hot doing that. So for you to be like, I'm going to take just some time for myself, but like, communication here, I still love the hell out of you. Like, that is healthy. That is a much healthier way than just like disappearing.
Yeah, it really was. It really was. So that was something that I did really like about it. There's also the storyline with, and it's not even really a storyline until much later in the story, but you have Cash working, kind of owning this moving business with his brother Reed and Evan,
his cousin.
Yeah.
Right? Who but Evan was like working as maybe an accountant. I don't know. Some financial thing and left.
He was like doing a job somewhere else and he's like, I'm going to come into the business. Like, I'm just kind of pacing myself. So you have the three of them working together, family business, but Cash doesn't really want to take as much responsibility for the business. Like, he wants to be in it, working,
moving things
with everybody, as opposed to like overseeing people. And then, so that kind of, it all ties into this crazy family drama that Cash and Reed have, where they basically by the end discover that they're only half brothers because their mom had an affair and Cash is the product of that affair, and not only that, but she had another baby.
Which they treat horribly, and he did nothing to deserve that.
Well, and I was like, oh my god, how how perfect is this that this guy just happens to also work for their company
Right.
and ends up being Cash's brother. Like, that was where they started to lose me. Was in the maybe it's not even the second half. It's more like the last third.
Yeah.
It was more of like a question of too many coincidences and kind of excusing bad behavior. I think that's what made me angry a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think if the whole Sam Smith, that's the singer, Sam Smith, one of the two.
I wish it was Sam Smith.
Right? Come on in, bub. That whole story arc was going to play out a little bit longer. I would have expected, how I expected it to go, was that Jordan, they would question her attraction to him because he looked so similar to Cash, and like that's kind of what I was waiting to happen because of expectations.
And there were moments where like people thought she was like, they were like flirting, or she'd say like, he's a really attractive guy, he reminds me of Cash,
right?
You know?
But she was so upfront about everything, which is again why I like her, because she's like, no, like I like what I like, and it's not just a physical like, you know, attraction of what I'm seeing,
right?
You know, you didn't, you know, you don't make me feel the way he does, different.
The second half of the story, as much as I love Jordan, it felt like it was less about Jordan and Cash and more about things happening around Jordan and her responding to them. Yeah. If that makes sense. Like, it was kind of like Cash and his brother would do something, and then Cash would help out Jordan's brother, and then Cash would get into a fight helping Jordan's brother, and then Jordan would be like, wait, what? My brother was bullied at school by his teacher and they kicked him out? What? My brother's been selling drugs? But
I think that's why she blows up, is because she's like, I haven't been in any of this. I've been left out.
Which is fair. It's almost like she was like, it's what I would have said if like I was in a play and I'd be like, wait, what about me?
Right.
Like,
right. Exactly. Where's my line?
Exactly. And it was kind of like she was left out of the story.
Exactly.
And she got upset about it, rightfully so.
Yeah, and she blew up, and rightfully so. Yeah. It's just, that fit there.
Yeah.
But I see what you mean. It's kind of like, wait, I want more of her.
Yeah, you know, because I loved her. And, like, the first half of the story, I love them kind of, you know, getting to know each other. And I love the way that they fall into this romance where they're both clearly attracted to each other. And they have explosive sex, which is, like, super hot.
Yep.
And then Cash, you know, goes and gets in a little fight. But you find out that the fight was because he was defending this guy that owns the gym, and these guys were gonna like beat him up for being gay. So you're like, okay, I can excuse the fighting. Like you're a good guy. Like,
you're fighting for good reasons. You're not just.
And I think they mentioned it in the very beginning, and maybe this was something in the previous book, but they mentioned it in the beginning that Cash was like in the papers or like had gotten recognition for defending someone or fighting someone. So it's like we know that this is part of his personality and his nature, is that he does fight for, you know, the underdog or somebody that's weaker, you know, so I'm like, okay, that's good. Like, I knew from the start that he was a good guy kind of thing.
Which works out because then he tries to fight for Jordan, falls short because she's already strong, so therefore adopts the fighting of her younger brother, and then that way she can slip in and take care of him as, like, the underdog because he emotionally has been neglecting his own self. She's gonna fight
for them!
Yeah, I mean, even at the end, he's all like, I could be moving couches until I'm 80, and she's like, that's fine, sweetheart, I'm gonna make the money. And it's like, okay, girl, you tell him what's up.
Yeah. There were, the one thing that drove me a little nuts, and, you know, I do understand it in terms of, I think it's kind of similar to when you're graduating college, and you're kind of sort of realizing, like, well, what do I do now? Like, who am I? Where do I go from here? That seems to be, like, a common theme amongst this group of people, and I definitely understand that that's part of being a veteran, that you're coming out of something, especially if you were, you know, fighting, that this is, where do I go from here? You know, how do I kind of adapt back to, quote unquote, like, normal civilian life?
Right, like I ran a marathon and now I'm too tired to, like, go walking with my friends.
Yeah, like, what do I, you know, and what do I do for work, and how do I have a relationship, you know, and it's, that was something that, I like that theme, but also it drove me a little bonkers because everyone seemed so indecisive about everything in this story. Like, for for Rafi even, for Jordan's brother, who is the one character that we really spend a lot of time with that hasn't seen battle or been in the armed forces, he even goes back and forth of, you know, he has a great talk with Cash, and then the next day he'll be like reflecting on it, like, yeah, that was really good, and then he'll be in class and be like, whatever, I'm a piece of shit, I shouldn't be here anyway, I'm gonna get out of here. And then, you know, 5 pages later is, I need help, I said this is wrong, like, and then a 5-page after that, oh, I know I shouldn't be selling drugs, but I just didn't know how to say no.
Yeah, but I think that fits the persona or, like, the mental state, and maybe this is just me getting too symbolic. Or of humans, like, at all, especially dating, you know, you're like, I'm not gonna...
I'm not even saying it was wrong, it was just so frustrating.
Yeah, no, it is,
and
definitely.
I even wrote down at one point, because the other one that nagged me so much was Reed, who's already in a loving relationship with Naomi.
Right.
Is like going back and forth about whether or not they're moving in together.
Oh, yeah.
And I wrote down, I was like, oh my God, such a typical man.
Right.
Like, get out of here. But it really was. It was so much of, you know, push-pull of will they, won't they, or should I do this, should I not do this? I'm like, you just said you were going to 2 pages ago, and now you're not. And so I don't think it's bad. It's just that it frustrated me so much, but I know how real that is.
Yeah.
And maybe that's probably why I found it so frustrating. It's so similar to most of my friends. It's so similar to people I've dated.
Right.
You're just like, good God, like, this is not a be-all, end-all decision kind of thing. You know?
Well, and that's what is cool, too, is that I think when it is a little bit more clear and people are a little bit more decisive, that's what leads to bigger climaxes, no pun intended, happening of, like, and it threatens to ruin everything, and then this doesn't, and this was more like, instead of having those big waves of, you know, the plot mountains things.
The plot mountains.
You know, that's what they look like.
I'm picturing that chart. I remember
it's coming up now. It's coming up. It's like tiny little ones everywhere as like waves, instead of just like this big thing that happens and then the smaller kind of big thing that happens and then a third wham bammy that happens.
It's very real. It's very real in terms of, you know, just kind of the way people function, and that we are frustrated. Yeah. And we do kind of fall into romance sometimes. Like, they don't have a typical they don't have a typical love story. What is love? You know?
Yes.
That's that.
It is.
It really is true in that they really, you know, they're friends, and then they're, you know, lovers, and then it becomes more, but when? There's not one specific moment, like, you know, that it happens. I think if anything, things become more serious when they have sex without a condom for the first time.
Right. Hello.
Yeah, and they even both acknowledge it. They're like, I know, like, how big of a moment this is, that I'm going to, like, do this.
Right.
And I loved that. I thought that was really great. And, yeah, and there's a lot of good types of relationships. Like, we have the family relationships, and they're different, too, with, like, Cash and his brother, as well as Jordan and her brother. We have the frustrating family relationships, which I'll talk about in a second, too, because that... Ooh, talk about frustrating. That was yikes. And then, you know, the romance, the couple that's already a couple. We have the weird... I'm wondering what's going to go on with Smith, the long-lost brother.
Right. Like, that really didn't get touched. Maybe it will in the third.
Yeah. Like, I'm like, that's got to be part of the next book. Or, like, maybe Smith will have a book.
Yeah.
Like, you know, maybe... I think the next book's about Evan, who's, you know, their cousin. And then I'm like, okay, there's got to be a book for Smith, right? He's got to be... the fourth one,
right?
Maybe?
And he looks like Cash, so like we know the sex is gonna sound really great or read really great or whatever it does.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Yeah, I like to think too that like for somebody being in the military, you have so much excitement and you know anything that's going on there, you know, gunfire, bombs, whatever, you know, IEDs or anything. Then you get back to life, and the mundane becomes as much as you could probably handle sometimes. And so that might be a good tone for these people to, these characters in particular, to grasp of like, just that on its own is so stressful because there's so many components that we didn't have when we were all in a desert or wherever. Dealing with these, catastrophic, potentially life-ending issues. It's like, we don't really want that here. We really want the bare minimum of like, do you trust me? Yeah.
Like, it's the first scene. It's a matter of,
is it gonna rain?
In the rain or not? Like, and they're in Seattle, so you're like, well, it's gonna rain at some point.
Right, move it now.
Gosh, but okay. The one thing that frustrated me to the point where I really didn't like where Marie Harte was going with this. I understand it to a certain degree, but I don't like when we try and make excuses to excuse people's bad behavior. And I felt like that's kind of what was happening with both sets of parents.
Oh my gosh, most definitely.
Yeah, like I was like, oh, but it's like when you try to explain, it's like when somebody tries to explain this, I don't want this to sound racist, but...
Right.
And like, you're like, if you have to start with that, whatever you're saying, there's a reason you're saying that statement to start with.
Yes.
Like, it's gonna be racist.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of how I felt about, we have Rafi and Jordan's parents who, at first you don't meet them, so I'm just kind of like, okay, they just can't handle the unruly kid.
Yeah, they're checking out. They have 2 older children.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, they're sending him to live with his sister who was in the army, and she'll be a hard ass. Like, oh, okay, I get that. Like, I would have understood it if it was like they thought she, of all people, would be the one to kind of like whip him into shape because she had gone in the army and everything, and that, convince him to go to military school or, whip his ass into not going to military school.
Right.
But then you meet their parents, and they're so indifferent to like...
Oh, they're garbage.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're complete...
They really
waste.
are. Like, they treat everyone except Jordan's older sister, Leanne.
Right. Like a princess. And I know what I see exactly what you're saying, too. It's like, by the end, they're like... trying to relate the dad to the son because he was also in the army, and it's like, God. Dude, no, you suck. Like,
yeah, they sit down with the parents at the end and basically are like, we feel like you don't love us as much as Leanne, you don't have faith in your son, like you're, just trying to get rid of him. And then they start making apologies, but then they're still talking about sending him to military school.
Yeah, like they still don't get it.
Are you sure? You sure you don't want to go? And it's like, no, he never fucking wanted to go in the beginning.
And then he moves back home with them. Like, why?
Yeah, that to me was the most unbelievable part of the entire book, was in the end, he went home to the parents.
Right.
That basically kicked him out and had no faith in him.
Yeah.
And then they find out that he's basically dyslexic or has some sort of learning ability.
And they're like, oh shit, sorry.
Yeah, they're like, oh, I wish you would have just told us.
Or like, maybe we should have just paid attention.
God,
right?
That was so frustrating. I did not like that part.
Yeah, they were trash.
Well, and then you have the other side where I did like this whole idea that you have these brothers who work at a moving company, who own a moving company, and they are now tasked with moving all the stuff out of their family home after their mom died like a month ago.
Yeah, that hurts.
That, to me, that could have been the whole story.
Exactly.
It could have just been that, and then Jordan
comes into the picture.
Too.
Right, like making sandwiches in the back, except she wouldn't because she just doesn't. She's like, heck no, you order a sandwich.
Yeah, you get your own sandwich.
Yeah, I'll eat my own. You eat 2.
Cool.
Yeah, I'll eat 1.
Yeah, but then while they're, unloading the house, which Cash is left, by the way, he's left the house.
Yeah, for a long time.
Will, and he hasn't been part of the picture.
No, he left when he was like 16 or something.
Yeah.
And then, or got kicked out, and now he's coming back because, oh, surprise, surprise, she left it to him.
And he has this weird, that'll mess up anybody for sure. Like, but he has this weird image of his mom, especially as being like, the woman who she only read romance novels and watched movies and TV. Like, she didn't pay attention to us. She was much more intrigued with the people who weren't real.
Right.
Like, that would entertain her, not her own kids.
Right.
Kind of thing.
Which is explained later why, but...
And that's kind of that thing that kind of brings me back to that is... At the very end, almost, they find the mom's diary.
Note in a wall.
In the wall.
In the wall.
And Cash, at this point, has already invited Jordan and her brother to move into the house with him. He's going to keep the house, renovate it, you know, make it theirs and everything, which I was like, that's kind of where I thought it was going to go too.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's cute. I like that. They're starting their own little family house, except now Rafi won't be there because he's going to go live with the dumbass parents.
In the third book, first page, they'll be like, yep, Rafi changed his mind. They still suck. They're the worst.
Yeah, but then they find the mom's diary, and while reading it, Reed and Cash figure out that Cash is, you know, somebody else's son, and that there was another child that the mom had and sent to live with, like, her friend.
Right.
And they're like, oh, well, we know who the child must be. It must be the man Smith who works for a company.
And looks like you.
Yeah, he looks just like you. I'm like, okay, that's so many bombs dropping in one chapter.
Well, and then when Jordan goes to ask him, she's like, do you know? And he's like, yes. And it's like, oh, you knew the whole time.
Yeah.
And then that's all he is. And then he's just sulking in the back of the whole...
Like he was doing the whole rest of the story.
Yeah, like he doesn't even... like, play a bigger part of that. And, like, you want to speak up there, Smith? Sam Smith?
It was odd. It was an odd thing to put in.
Yeah.
Especially where it came in at the book. Like, again, if the story was about them, you know, rifling through the mom's house, getting rid of her stuff, coming to terms with her death and their relationship, figuring out there was another brother, finding the brother, you know?
Right.
That's one potential story I can see. I can also just see it being about him helping Jordan and her brother too. Like, I mean, Rafi's storyline was really big. Like, it went on and it kept going. Like, every time I thought it was going to end, where he, you know, would become a model citizen, there'd be another obstacle. And this was an interesting book too, in that a lot of the ones we read are usually dual perspectives, where you get, you know, you would be getting Jordan's point of view in one chapter, and then also Cash's point of view in another chapter.
This was like all over the place.
This one, yeah, that was a little different too. Was, you know, it was mostly Cash and Jordan, but we started getting POVs from Rafi. We got them from Reed. I'm trying to think. Evan, we got near the end. Yeah. Well, I want to say there was maybe even another one or two in there, but yeah, it would switch back and forth, not with like a consistency, but just like, oh, we're talking to Reed, so let's see what's going on in Reed's head now. Right,
yeah. Yeah, and it flowed well. Like, it didn't take me out of the novel completely.
No, me neither. But... You know, I thought it would be weird because it was like, it wasn't like, you know, keeping a specific pace with it, but it was fine. Like, I didn't mind it. I don't know if we needed it, but...
No, yeah.
I did like hearing what Rafi was thinking. Like, he was the one character outside of Cash and Jordan that I found to be the most interesting.
Well, of course, a 15, 16-year-old prepubescent or mid-pubescent child, like, you kind of always want to know, like, what you thinking?
Such a good, like, he had a view of, like, who his sister was, who Cash was, and then seeing them together, and he just saw this connection between them of, like, oh my god, how does my sister love this big... giant guy, you know, that's like a monster, and then he's like, no, they're great together. And then he sees his sister be a badass and beat the shit out of their landlord.
It's cute.
Like, it's great, yeah. So I really liked, like if Marie Harte went on to write more books and she wrote one where Rafi was like the adult now.
Yeah, I'd be in.
I'd be so into it. Like,
he's gonna age well too.
Yes, like I loved him. He was probably my favorite character. What about you? What else? What else did you like? What else did you not like?
I wish that they had delved in a little bit more to Miriam and what the hell she was doing in the back of her.
Oh,
that was cool.
I can't believe we haven't talked about that yet.
Miriam's little orgasm classes that she has. Okay.
Did you ever read or perform vagina monologues?
No, but I know what they are. I just never.
It reminded me of, there's a specific monologue in Vagina Monologues called the Vagina Workshop, and it's where these women go to this place, and there's the instructor, and they all like lounge on the floor with like wearing robes, and they're like gaping open, and they have hand mirrors, and it's all about like looking at your vagina and like touching yourself and discovering yourself and helping like realize what works for you and touching yourself and eventually orgasming. And I was like, oh, that's basically what this class is, except it just sounded so much more like a circle jerk.
Like, well, like, have you ever heard about those classes? And, like, you can look it up on YouTube, too. Like, there's these classes where people go and they honestly orgasm off of thought.
Great.
Like, no touching. Like, and they do, too. I don't, like, some of them, like, there's no way you're faking that because you look weird. Like, you know, when people make those, their O faces are like, nice. That you would not choose that to be shown.
I
but
wouldn't choose that O face.
Right? No. Maybe a little something more subtle. But yeah, like, off of thought because of, like, describing things and remembering things and then just, like, their breathing pattern, and they do, man.
It's like yoga.
Yeah.
It's like orgasm yoga.
Yeah.
Yorgasm.
I once had a friend who could only orgasm on an erg machine. Weird. She went to the gym a lot.
I bet she was in great shape.
Great arms.
Oh, no. I mean, oh, yes. Like, why not?
Right?
It works
I don't need no man. The machine's a little pricey, but gotta find room for it.
I have to share, this is a little off topic, but we're talking about orgasms. I saw this link today on Facebook where there's a company where you can, using their app or website, whatever it is, you can basically design your own dildo. Oh,
yeah. Have you seen, like, the dragon ones?
I've seen them, but I mean, I didn't realize this is like, you can go on and you can, like, customize the width and, like, you know, everything, like, and then they print out, I want to say, like, a 3D printed mold that you could then, you know, dip in silicone or, like, whatever the next steps are.
You gotta know your vag, man.
Oh my god, I thought I did, but apparently
you
not.
You don't. I have no idea what that looks like, but...
Oh, man. Okay. Well, I mean, since we're talking about the raunchier bits, do you have a specific raunchy moment, or what we'd like to call our segzerps from the story that you'd like to share with us?
I don't know if I have an entire segzerpt, but there are a couple phrases. One was just, oh man, I mean, he just gripped her really hard. That was mainly the thing. It was just like general. Plunging, and there was a lot of hard gripping.
Yeah,
and
well, he's a large man. He's got large hands.
Large stiffening cock is like how that was.
Cock.
And my favorite was when she was. He had her quote wet and willing.
Ooh, yeah, that's the best.
Ooh, like not only are you like ready to go, but you want this, like like now. You're willing to do this. You want it. And that's kind of hot, because...
Yeah.
And it's also nice to, I don't know, I feel like a lot of the time, you know, it's so easy for, I'm not a man, so I don't know how it is being that, but, like, for a woman to be super self-conscious, you know, like, in the boudoir about, like, what goes on, and for, like, books like this, especially with Jordan, to be like, I mean, yeah, you know,
Let's do it.
Yeah, like, this is the way that it is, let me just grab you, but, like, not in a way of... She's not, like, a slave to him in any way.
No.
You know?
No. Like, to me, like, one of the hotter scenes is when they do have sex without the condom for the first time, but she is very much the one pushing for that.
Yeah, like, she's like, no, I want, yes.
Yeah, he's like, should I grab a condom, and she's like, no, I want to feel you, I'm safe, I'm protected.
She's wet and willing.
She's wet and willing. There was one sex scene that I wrote down, I was like, I don't know if I like this, and it was when... He's had a concussion from, you know, one of his many fights that he gets in, and she tells him, you know, point blank, well, no, we're not having sex.
Yeah, I'm not jostling you around.
Right. Yeah, and so they go to sleep, but then the next, like, a few hours later, he basically is, like, half groggy on painkillers, and he's like, yeah, let's do it. Like, it just seemed like, I don't know. It just seemed so weird. I was like, I don't know if I'm into this, like, because it seemed like he wasn't really, he was awake. It's so bad to say it. It's not racist, but he was awake enough.
Right. It's reversed.
Where I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that. We read another story recently where it was a similar thing where it was the male character was kind of out of it, and so we were like, is this rapey? Like, we're not sure.
In their defense, and it's not really a defense, it was more so like they're in the relationship, he's the one going for it, and she's the one going, no, you have to protect yourself, like your head.
Yeah.
And then she's like, fine, okay, she caves. So it's less of like a, shh, I know what's best, and more of like a, fine.
Because she wants to bone him too. Like,
right.
It's not like, because I don't like thinking about it as like, oh yeah, she just gives in, you know.
Yeah,
he wants it.
No,
she
she's
wants
like,
it too, but she's like, I
wet and willing.
shouldn't because he's, you know, hurt,
Yep.
you know.
Yep.
But that was the one that I was like, it's not that it was like creepy or anything. I was just like, this is a little odd.
It was weird. It was weird. I did imagine a lot of candles.
Yeah. There were a lot of sex scenes like back to back too, which I was like, whoa. Like we go from the condom sex scene to he takes her back to her apartment, and then the minute they get inside, he like fucks her against the door.
Well, that's also like hilarious to me is that they actually mentioned like, ah, shit, we got to do this before Rafi gets home.
Yeah,
which is a legitimate mundane concern amongst like a lot of couples.
Like, you hear him? Is somebody here?
Right.
Like, you know,
your roommate walks in, and you're like, shit, hurry up.
You know, my roommate's here. We're like, oh, my parents are coming home soon. Like, you know, I mean, it's So let's see. This is an excerpt from when he like flips her around and pushes her up against the door.
Oh, I remember that one.
Here we go. She moaned into his mouth and snaked a hand down his belly. No surprise, she found him thick and aching. Thick again. He's so thick.
He's so thick.
She unbuttoned and unzipped him, then pushed his pants down. He shoved her pants and panties down as well, then turned her around and pulled her hips back. I'm coming in, was all the warning he gave. Cash shoved inside her, gliding through her cream, and fucked her in earnest. So wet, she made a delicious friction, and he saw her hand move to her front. Yeah, touch yourself, he whispered, hoping they'd get to the finish before her brother returned.
Right? That's the thing. This little disclaimer on the end.
It's like you get into this fantasy and then it's like, hoping we finish before he gets home.
Yeah.
The naughty, rushed aspect of their coupling added to their excitement, as did fucking her without a rubber. Gonna come in you again, Jordan. Deep in you, he rasped as he took her harder, faster. Not before I come first. God, Cash, you feel huge, she moaned, a soft, breathy little sound that turned his world inside out. Then she seized around him, and he couldn't stop himself. He just couldn't stop himself. She was seizing.
Man.
She was seizing around his thick, aching member.
Right? Well, and he's so concerned, too, like, about getting her off, I think, too, which is refreshing.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, and that's thankfully, if you do read more romance, that is something that's fairly common throughout, is that we want to make her come first.
Well, because you want to reach more audience members, I suppose. I guess that makes sense.
They want that fantasy moment. And how sad is that that's the fantasy moment, that she comes first. Or that they come together at the same
that's the thing.
time.
Can't y'all, like, I don't know, try playing it out, like, a little closer? It's just more convenient, and not one person just gotta lay there.
God, so good. Okay, cool. Anything else? Last thoughts?
I think that pretty much sums it up.
Now, this would typically be the part of the podcast where Katie, Lynn, and I would give our grades for story, syntax, and sexcapades to Smooth Moves. However, on the day of recording, my brain decided not to function, and we forgot to do so. Therefore, I'm going to quickly sum up my grades that I gave Smooth Moves, and I think it's safe to say that Katie, Lynn, and I were on pretty much the same page throughout recording. So for story, I gave Smooth Moves 7. For syntax, I gave it an 8. I would definitely read another Marie Harte book, and honestly, I'd love to read the next one in the series. And for sexcapades, I also gave it an 8. What scenes there were super steamy and smoking hot.
Well, having read Smooth Moves, do you think that you would maybe pick up another romance and read more in the future?
Heck yeah, I read this at the beach tanning, and it was the best
best
way to tan.
Oh, you took beach reads to a whole new level.
I did. It was a little uncomfortable because it was a family vacation, and so the erotic chapters were like, "Please don't read this around my shoulder." But it was a little, nice to have a secret.
I love that.
Right?
I love that. You read this at the Smooth Moves by the Smooth Waves.
Yeah, man. Totally.
That sounds great. Well, good. We'll have to hook you up with something else then.
I mean, Marie Harte already has, so many that I could delve into.
Yes.
But I'm always open.
Do you think you'll want to read, the next book in the series?
I don't know. There is that preview chapter that I'll have to...
For Evan?
Yeah.
Yeah, see if we like Evan enough. I was thinking that Evan was going to, hook up with Miriam. That was
That's what I thought.
Their romance novel.
Totally. totally makes sense.
And it's not, though. I, like, totally peeked, and it's not Miriam, so. Miriam, the woman who runs the orgasm workshop next door to the moving place, will just have to wait for another day.
With sex classes. I feel like those will be, like, sprinkled in with the plot. Yeah, here and there.
Like that. Somebody else is gonna have to walk into the one in the next book,
oh,
right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's too good to just give up, just not mention ever again.
I know, right? I mean, we got it like 3 times in this book. I was like, okay, orgasm class again.
Yeah, can we sit in on one in the next book? I would love to.
Yes. Oh man, cool, awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh my gosh, thanks for having me.
And I'm so excited for What is Love?
What is love?
You know what? We just talked about this whole book, and we talked about the movie, and I still don't know.
I'm clueless, but I think they figured it out, so maybe we need to join the army.
Yeah, that's the answer.
That's it.
That's join the army. I would say, I thought it was going to be maybe we should, like, holler at Marie Harte, but I mean, join the army. That can be.
I just feel like they all are finding something.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
True.
I am afraid of guns, so they're probably the wrong.
Maybe not a great fit.
Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and just call that.
Maybe we just need to read more romance, and we'll have our answer.
That's what it is. Maybe I will fall in love with a book and marry the book.
Oh,
Can
maybe.
You? I don't know.
Maybe then it'll be legal.
I don't know.
Well, lots of questions that we will continue pondering long after this episode. But for now, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Everybody, please check out What is Love, the film, when it eventually makes its debut. And until then, you have social media and is it GoFundMe?
The GoFundMe is that's the What is Love's.
Perfect.
That's what their campaign is right now.
Perfect. And until then, we'll have to get you hooked up with more romance to read to keep you occupied.
Yes.